So, authoritarianism is a topic of conversation now? Yes. And we see this conversation happening all along the political spectrum. So it's not just from one particular reactionary corner of our politics. From the left, with the ascent of the saggy Caesar and many of his policies, there are accusations of fascism. And on the right, as we start to see democratic socialists winning more and more elections, there's concern expressed by the right that we're moving toward a totalitarian version of communism, which I'm heretofore going to refer to as Stalinism because it's a bit of a complicated topic. So, well, which is it? Which is it? Are we moving toward fascism? Are we moving toward Stalinism? What's going on? And is there really a difference between the two? Well, it turns out that, in effect, fascism and Stalinism pretty much arrive at the same place: totalitarian suppression of all human rights and dignities, and ultimately the destruction of those societies. But are they the same in fact, in means? And that's where the differences come out. It turns out there are differences between fascism and Stalinism in the rhetoric. In other words, in how they justify their abuses of power. So fascism is premised on the idea that once upon a time, the nation was great. But what happened was, well, liberals came along and created a tolerant society, and they started to tolerate all of these inferior groups, all of these inferior minority cultures, inferior gender variations, inferior moralities, and they allowed these foreign and inferior influences to get a stronghold in the country. So the only remedy for that is to empower a strong man to use any means necessary to rid the country of those foreign and inferior elements and to suppress those elements. So this is why fascism is a right-wing philosophy, because it harkens back to certain traditional core values that once upon a time made the nation great, but have since been degraded by inferior groups of people. And it's also very helpful to fascists to have particular villainous groups of people that you can target for your harshest policies. Now, how is that different with regard to Stalinism or totalitarian communism? Well, the idea behind Stalinism and totalitarian communism is that we are able to, at this point, to achieve a utopian society in which there are no states, oppressive states, there's no private property, there's no money, and there's no classes, and everybody is able to benefit from this society according to their needs and contribute to the society according to their abilities. So this is based on a Marxist understanding of the evolution of society. We're about there. We can do it. But we're not allowed to do it because liberals have allowed capitalists to accumulate so much power that they will not allow us to tamper with their ability to exploit the working class. So the only solution to this is to, yes, empower a strong man to use whatever means are necessary in a dictatorship of the proletariat. In other words, a dictatorship in the interests of the proletariat, not of proletariat people in and of themselves, right? To have this dictatorship of the proletariat use whatever means is necessary to strip the means of production away from the capitalist class, from the bourgeoisie, and turn it over to the working class of the proletariat. And in doing so, we will then be able to usher in this utopian society in which the state dissolves away into irrelevance because there's no longer classes and class oppression to sustain. There's no longer any money, and everybody is on an equal footing and owns and benefits from the means of production. The thing that both fascism and Stalinism have in common is that the idea is to empower a strongman, to empower a dictator to make these things happen, to force us to go back to a society that was great, a nation that was once great, or to force the country to go forward into some utopian future. And only the power of this strong man can do that. And that's where it all comes back to my buddy, Lord Acton, and his observation that power tends to corrupt, and absolute power tends to corrupt absolutely. And that's why I find the anarchist perspective most compelling. Those people who come out and say, "Empower me and I will make your dreams come true," are charlatans. They are going to lead you down a very dark alley. It doesn't matter if it's right-wing fascism. It doesn't matter if it's left-wing communism. If somebody is making a claim to power, they are probably bad people.